We'll go ahead and call the meeting of the City Council special meeting for public input to order at 7:05. Do we have anyone listed for citizens' comments, Shanae?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and go to the public hearing number 2 on the 2025-2026 City of Irving fiscal year budget. Shanae, do we have people signed up?
We do. Our first speaker is, well, I guess I should read this. No, don't need to read out either of those. Everybody will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker is Christy Betts. Our second speaker is Roy Getting.
Hello. Before his death, Fred Rogers, best known for his PBS Kids show, said, "What children probably need to hear most from adults is that they can talk with us about anything, and we will do all that we can to keep them safe, even in a scary time." As I've listened to the clamoring for book banning here locally and elsewhere, what strikes me most about the conversations that adults are having in this room is that they are centered on fear. My name is Christy Betts, and I reside at 1413 Kisa Lane. For 25 years, I worked as a kindergarten and pre-K educator here in Irving ISD, and the fear that I hear from many of these advocates is the same fear as I saw so many times in the eyes of parents as their children took those first, most important steps toward learning and growing as an independent individual. Oddly, these parents, just like these advocates for restricting libraries, often pretended that their fears were, in fact, their children's fears, that it was really the kids who needed the parents to stay, when in fact it was the other way round. But this fear is not healthy for kids or parents or educators. It's not helpful for families or communities. When the fear that children might encounter a difficult idea or raise a difficult question drives parents to shut conversations down, we are telling them that the problem is with them and must remain theirs alone to cope with on their own. When radicals start banging on about banning books, it is their fear that they wish to impose on everyone else. But those fears are not a justification for public policy. Because this right here, the prejudice couched in pearl-clutching concerns, is actually how you hurt kids. And parents, too. This is how you encourage the kids in our community to hide things from their parents and to turn toward less credible and less critical sources for information and to avoid the conversations they need to have with the adults in their lives. Those here who would have you restrict our public libraries are actively pushing those children who most need our help to the margins, into the shadows. They would render the truths of children's lives unspeakable in the public square, except as an exercise in shaming. To appropriate from E.L. Doctorow, there are queer families, there are queer kids in our community. They are here. Their pride is ours too. They need to hear from us as adults. They need to know that they can talk about their problems. They can visit the library to find answers to their questions and hear from perspectives they might not have considered. They need to ask and talk and question and learn without fear. And we, as the adults in the room, must swallow our fear too, so that we can move on to focus our attention and resources and willpower on the issues that actually matter for our kids' future. And a public library with the full support and resources from its community is a vital part of ensuring that future.
3 minutes.
That's how we truly can fulfill our obligation to our kids. That's how we really keep our kids safe.
Thank you, Ms. Betts. Roy Getting, followed by Leonard McCown.
Good evening, Roy Getting, 22-8 Rita Court. Yeah, I bet you all wonder what I'm going to say. I'm going to basically repeat a little bit what I did last week. I failed to get the numbers for the population from 2000 to 2024 to do a comparison. So I redid my FOIA request and asked the city to provide me those numbers. And I'll let you know what they are when I get them. But our city government's growing faster than the population. That's got to come under control, and you guys are the ones that can do it. So look at the departments. Which one's adding more people? Yeah, the police and fire, they need it. Waste department needs people. But we don't need people down here in the hall. We already got too many of them. Time to look at it and cut it. Some of you guys know how to run a computer, know AI. Might be a good time to use it. I hear that's what Doge is using. Find all the money. So it's up to you guys. I'll see you in a minute. Thank you.
Leonard McCown, followed by Donna Snyder.
My name is Leonard McCown, and I reside at 217 West 14th Street. I was an educator for many years, and I've seen my fair share of finger wagging and moral outrage. But the ongoing conversation about library funding reminds me of a time early in my career when I worked at Dallas Baptist College before it became DBU. After working there for a few years, I was asked to sign a statement of faith to continue my employment as a Baptist myself. I found this notion offensive. No employer, no institution, no government has any right to command our beliefs. And yet today, rabble-rousers in our community are using these budgetary meetings to do just that. They would ask you to cut valuable resources and restrict the operations of our library to suit their own strictures, rather than allow anyone to read, appreciate, and know their own God in Scripture. As a genealogist and family historian, I found that there's nothing more important for preserving community's history and promoting a bright future for a community than the public library. The historical heart of our community and its future rest in the Irving Public Library system. When it gets down to the brass tacks, who are here to fight against the library to do so out of their own personal qualms, their own personal distaste for some of these books. They may crouch their arguments in concern for children, but when you consider their arguments and the venom with which they speak about our civil service librarians, or when you take the time to talk with them a little bit about these books, it all comes back to their own preferences and prejudices, which they may want you to impose on the rest of the city. Another statement in this area, popularized by Winston Churchill, those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. While these murmurs, excuse me, these murmurs about defunding our libraries are nowhere near the threat of Nazi Germany. These seeds of a distrust, even when sown as genuine concerns, threaten to erode the public institutions that allow us to learn from our past and create our future. Since its inception as a community association back in 1941, our public library has been a resource for people of all walks of life. It's one of our city's greatest achievements and resources. This is a decision about the character of our city and the preservation of its history and future. I urge you to continue full funding and support for the Irving Public Library and reject any attempts to weaken this essential pillar of our community.
Thank you. Donna Snyder, followed by April Sanderson.
Hi, I am Donna Snyder and have resided in Irving since my birth, July of 1954. My address is 4933 Longwood Court, 75038. Irving Public Librarians were hired based upon their rigorous academic background and are specifically trained to be qualified to choose and purchase appropriate reading materials for all shelves of the Irving Public Libraries. I am not qualified for this job, or to be the city manager, or to be the police or fire chief. I am, however, qualified as a parent to assist and oversee the books my child checks out from the Irving Public Library, and no one else is qualified to do that or to interfere with our choices. Thank you.
April Sanderson, followed by Jessica Lesser.
Good evening. My name is April Sanderson. I live at 1208 Jeffrey Trail, and I'm here today to speak in support of the requested $100,000 allocation for the emergency inclement weather shelter for this winter. We all know Texas weather can turn on a dime, and when it does, there are still those left outside, not because they want to be out there, because they have nowhere else to go in Irving. The shelter is not just a line item on the budget, it's a lifeline. We're not talking about luxury, we're talking about the bare minimum of what it means to be a community that cares. This $100,000 is not a burden, it's a moral investment. It's the least that we can do and the least we should do. I've witnessed countless lives being changed just because they came and stayed at the shelter, even for one night. We've built relationships with people, we've reunited families. If we had more time, I'd tell you one that's really close to my heart, 80-year-old woman. We've successfully housed many, many individuals and families. So I'm going to keep it short so that you can all go home at some point tonight. I just implore you, not just as a resident, not just as a volunteer, but as a neighbor, please dig deep, do what's right. Please approve this funding. Good night.
Jessica Lesser, followed by Chris Espina.
My name is Jessica Lesser. I live at 414 Northeast Street in Arlington. I'm here once again, as you may have guessed, to speak about Irving Department Arts and Culture budget, specifically the Irving Arts Center. We are terminating the entire back-of-house position. Unfortunately, it's been explained to us that the Arts Center is facing a budget cut of $1.6 million starting this fiscal year. That's not true. The $1.6 million was never part of the budget. It was something akin to a grant given to IDAC. It always had an end date. It was a 10-year grant. They knew this was coming. They did nothing to prepare for it. And as a result, the entire back-of-house Theater 1 technician department must suffer for it. They say that this will save the facility money and that we need to keep in budget. If that is the case, then why are we still looking to hire 6 new full-time employees? The Technician 1 department doesn't even have enough part-time employees to make up for 6 full-time employees in regards to hours. We were never explained why this was happening, except that because it is. The director, the vice director, management, they were never forthcoming. They never wanted to speak to us. When we asked them directly, they'd ignore us. They'd tell us later. We'd request meetings, they'd make them and then cancel them. The only people we've had be receptive to us is you, the city council. And it's unfortunate and it's sad that we had to reach out to you and we could not handle this within our own department because the department is, quite frankly, poorly run. As I said, this was a 10-year pseudo-grant. They knew it was coming. The director knew it was coming. He didn't prepare. This is on him. He's passing it on to us. He's going to hire new employees
1 minute left.
that do not do the physical labor at the Art Center. They're going to sit in the office. They're going to type on their computers. They're going to hire contractors to cover our positions. They will do the same labor, and they will pass that cost onto the clientele who is already complaining that the prices are being raised. I have letters from 2 of the residential groups saying how much they hate this idea. I couldn't reach out to the other residential groups because the director controls their emails. And if I were to email them, they would not receive it. The only way I got their information is because I had a personal relationship with these resident groups. I am asking you to put all this into consideration. I know that you're going to pass the budget anyway. I know there's nothing I can do. But I do want you to look long and hard at how the director has managed this situation, And consider that when you have to appoint new board members this upcoming fiscal year, because I know some are changing. Please consider that and see that this is taken care of. Do better. Please do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Espina, followed by Laura Anderson.
Chris Ospina, North Story Road. As per my last speech, after a month of management refusing to give us any clear answers regarding our future at the Art Center, we attended an all-staff meeting. It was a celebration of what the Art Center had accomplished and what its aim is for the future, as well as a moment for all departments to mingle and introduce themselves to each other. A very yay us gathering, all while an entire department was on the chopping block. Here, I asked Todd directly, in front of the entire Art Center staff, for a back-of-house meeting, and finally, it was scheduled. And that meeting was a disaster. I don't know if he forbade the management team from speaking, but we barely got a single sentence from any of them, if at all. He opened by offering us preferential treatment if we joined StageCorps as contractors. He presented this offer as if he had been working on it with StageCorps for our benefit. But when my coworkers contacted StageCorps, they had no idea what they were talking about, and I don't think StageCorps even knew who Todd was. Furthermore, when he received the slightest pushback, he shot up, yanked his papers off the table, and loudly rescinded his offer, turning around to storm out before something changed his mind, and suddenly he had meek apologies to offer. He claims it's a financial decision, though we are among the lowest paid employees at the Art Center, with only front of house making less per year, I believe. I've not once met my 1,000-hour limit. The most I ever got in a year was $21,000. Last year, my salary was $13,000, and this year, it's been $10,000. Meanwhile, amid these allegedly necessary cutbacks, Todd has seen fit to increase his own salary by $24,000 since last year. 2 entire years' worth of my pay would not be enough to cover his raise. Any potential savings from my termination have instead gone right into his pocket. This is an abysmal display of leadership and an excellent show of hypocrisy. What's the next cutback going to be? The front of house staff? The office staff? Are we going to completely outsource our entire workforce? He presented all this as a done deal. When my coworker Jessica mentioned she would still speak to the city council, he looked her dead in the eye and said, and I quote, "They don't care. You're not a resident."
1 minute.
If nothing else, I know that's a lie, because not only does Todd not speak for any of you, not only am I a resident, she is a City of Irving employee, just like me, just like many in this building right now. And I know you deeply care about bettering the lives of every single Irving resident and of the city employees who work towards that goal every single day. And so I urge you, please veto the current Art Center budget that would do away with the entire part-time workforce for the theater. You might wonder why I struggle to stay in a place that clearly doesn't want me, but it's not a complicated answer. I love my job and I love my city. The management team never determined if I was going to have a good day at work. I did. I have a good relationship with my coworkers and even a good relationship with the contractors. Frankly, they treat us better than the management team does. Thank you for your time. Councilman Webb, if your location is open for early voting this October, I'll be there whether I have a job or not by the end of this. Thank you.
Laura Anderson.
Good evening, gentlemen. Laura Anderson, 1425 West Pioneer, Suite 114, Irving, Texas. First, please fund the inclement weather shelter. It is your duty to provide public safety to all citizens of Irving when the weather is below freezing. It is imperative to provide those without shelter a warm place in order to prevent someone from freezing to death. If you will provide $100,000 towards the inclement weather shelter, then the churches can contribute more funds to those nonprofits who provide homeless services throughout the rest of the year. Second, please provide funding for emergency shelters for those fleeing domestic violence today. Please don't wait years down the road when you can gather enough funds to build a building. Women are suffering today. Often when victim services calls to find emergency shelter, there is none available, especially for those women without children. Before you again deliberate on how to spend the $2.9 million on OMARP funds on September 18th, please consider spending $30,000 on a homeless systems mapping workshop. The workshop identifies the needs and resources already available, by bringing together everyone who is in need of shelter and creates a plan to make sure all the communities are addressed, including those who find themselves homeless as a result of domestic violence. With the results of this workshop, you will be able to stop arguing about who has the greatest need and actually know where our dollars are best spent. Finally, as you are aware, the Dallas County Jail is at critical levels, in part because of a City of Irving policy which prevents 100% of the people arrested in Irving on Dallas County charges from being able to see a magistrate while still in the Irving jail, and instead transports them down to Duluth Sterrett to see another magistrate. Please rewatch the budget review when the current presiding judge is speaking about the cost savings he has created by eliminating the obligation for the Irving judge to magistrate Dallas County charges.
1 minute.
At what cost? Some of the costs include Patrick Jones dying in the Irving jail after being left for 24 hours without the ability to see a magistrate. Dallas County Jail overcrowding, thousands of people being denied their constitutional rights and being overjailed, the tremendous liability placed squarely on the shoulders of the City of Irving for violating their constitutional rights, hundreds of thousands of dollars spent by both the City of Irving and Dallas County to needlessly hold and transport people to Dallas County, not to mention the human toll, loss of jobs and housing, those needing care, children, elderly, and those with disabilities being left unattended for extended periods of time simply because their caretakers happen to be arrested in Irving, Texas. We can do better. Please stop this illegal practice today. The human toll is just too great. Thank you, gentlemen.
That completes our speakers on the public hearing on the budget. The next item is item number 3, which is a public hearing number 2 on the fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed tax rate. Sinead, do we have residents to speak?
We only have one, and that's Roy Getting.
Roy Getting, 2208, Rita Court. I'm back. Anyway, keep this short. For years, you guys have been telling the voters, hey, we haven't raised your tax rate. Haven't raised our tax rate. Well, you're right, you haven't. How much did my property values go up? I married my wife almost 22 years ago. It's $100,000. Today it's $300,000. I'm over 65, so I'm locked in. I got neighbors who are struggling, really struggling. If you want to treat the taxpayers right, instead of keeping that 5891 rate, you drop it down to 5385. You figure out how to balance the budget. There are many towns and cities in the state that have a no new tax rate. They've done it for a couple of years already. Why don't you set the example? Show them the city our size can do it. Appreciate your time.
Okay, if we have no further comments on item number 2 or 3, we need a resolution expressing our intent to consider adopting the 2025-2026 City of Irving fiscal year budget on September 18th. This is part of the requirements of the state.
Yeah, I just actually had a question, and I don't think that tonight is when we discuss it, but I did earlier request some information about the $100,000 contribution. Is that something we talk about tonight, or we talk about it on the 18th?
I think we'll probably talk about it on the 18th. I think it's on the agenda.
Okay, because one of the options was to take it from the general fund, and that would affect the budget. So okay, so we'll do it on the 18th. Okay.
I think, I won't talk out of turn too much, but today they finished the collective bargaining, and there's some costs that are going to have to be rearranged in the budget as well. So the budget as it is will be coming forward, but we will have to address those increase in costs as well. So I'd entertain a motion. Second. I have a motion and a second. Would you please vote? And it passes unanimously. And that brings us to the end of our agenda, unless I'm missing anything. All right. Thank you all for being here.